Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Post your best or only ghost experiences. Mine. I was about 12 spending the night with my best friend. They lived in a house where an elderly couple had recently moved out due to the death of the woman from cancer. We were sleeping in the sunroom. It was sometime in the middle of the night. I jolted up and was sitting up on the couch I had been sleeping on. I was looking straight forward and then noticed something white towards the left. I looked and it was an elderly woman with her back to me looking out the window on the door to the backyard. I wasn't scared, just curious really. I kept looking at her and then she slowly turned around and looked at me with a stoic face. She then started walking towards me just looking at me. Before she got past the end of the couch, she turned and walked out of the room just at the end of the couch, all while still looking at me. During the whole thing, I wasn't scared, and after she walked out, I was a little confused, but went right back to sleep and remember the next morning what all happened.
Allow me to Greentext 1. Be 10 or 11. Parents owns a personal care home. Be live in the front portion of the complex. One night thunderstorms. Couldn't sleep afraid of the lightning. Venture to my parents' bedroom hoping to sleep with them. Across their bedroom is my dad's office. I see his leather office chair facing away from the door while silhouetted against the window. Lightning strikes. See somebody sitting in the chair. Basically just the head popping out. Dad? Go in parents' bedroom. Both are sleeping on bed. No bed back in my room. Found out later that a bunch of old people died in that place. My parents also told me they heard footsteps in the attic while they slept.
I have a story. My grandparents had this creepy-ass attic in their house. My grandparents bought it from some farmer guy back in the 1950s. My grandfather built most of the current house around the 2 rooms in the first floor and the 2 bedrooms upstairs. Mother is born in 1960s. She stays in room directly below attic. She would always hear footstep, then something falling up there, but nothing was ever out of place. Turns out that the guy who my grandparents bought the house from, his father's self-ended back in the 1930s because of the Depression and basically being a failure. My mom had taken a picture with something that looked like a cobweb up there, but it looks like a rope to me. Sorry, no pic. She will not go up in that attic to this day.
Not mine, but my mother's. She was on a camping trip with school, so about 15 to 16. In the countryside around Gunnerside in the north of England, British. This would have been early 1970s. One night the group were staying in a farmhouse, with all the girls, the teacher, the guide etc. It was freezing cold, so the girls were apparently all in their sleeping bags despite being indoors, and still dressed too. During the night my mum wakes up and sees one of the girls in the doorway. She is wearing, to the best of her memory, a white nightgown and nothing else, and is carrying a light, possibly a candle. My mum doesn't recognize the girl, but it more confused by why the girl isn't cold. There was no fear etc., nothing to suggest the paranormal. The girl started to climb the stairs just outside the room, and my mum went back to sleep. In the morning, she asked who it was that was walking around in the night, wondering if another school group were staying in the upstairs rooms. Well, of course, there was no upstairs. The farmstead allowed groups to stay in the bottom floor of the older farm building, as the top floor had been gutted by fire many years ago. Even today the story doesn't do anything so much as confuse my mother. And it is only today, typing this up now, I notice the possible link between the fire and the girl carrying the light.
Back in June 6, 2006, I was out with 2 friends. We went to a restaurant, saw a movie, and were in this old playground near the river having a few smokes and talking. None of us had anything to drink, and did no drugs, and we were all over 20 years old, so yeah, maybe we were a bit lame, but I was still having a good time. It was starting to get late, so we left the playground and started heading toward our car. An odd feeling came over me. I suddenly felt scared, even anxious. For some reason I looked to my right, into this field near the woods, at the exact same time one of my friends did. I initially didn't see anything, and there was no sound. A moment later, something started forming in the field, about 30 feet away. At first there was this white mist, floating a few feet off of the ground. It made no discernible shape, and looked like fog, but there was no fog out, and it collected in this single general spot. Shortly after, nearer to the woods, a few black silhouettes began to form, and moved slowly to the right. This all happened within the time period of about 5 seconds. Well, we all freaked out and ran to the car. By time we got to the car, I noticed everything we saw was already gone. Driving away, everyone was stunned, and just didn't talk at all for a few minutes. I checked the time when we started leaving, and it was shortly after midnight, suggesting we saw whatever this was at exactly midnight. We all talked about it later. Only 2 actually saw it, being me and another friend. The third friend felt anxious and scared, but refused to look. The friend who didn't look said she felt something was wrong, and described the feeling as evil and threatening. She was actually the first one to start running despite having not seen anything. Me and my other friend stood there for a few seconds and watched. Later on I figured out the date this happened was the 6th month, on the 6th day, 2006, at exactly midnight. That point has always bothered me a little bit. I don't know if it means anything, or was just pure coincidence. The place we witnessed this mist and shadow figures at has no real backstory. It's just a field. I have never seen anything like this since, and am still curious of exactly what I witnessed.
B16. Move into house that's haunted by a benign spirit. Always lose an item for months, have it turn up in obvious place months later. Mom mentions hearing footsteps upstairs after you're asleep. WTF. One fine afternoon, I was washing dirty dishes in my sink. I set them on the counter to dry. Keep in mind, I was home alone. No one else was there. Okay, so here's where it gets weird to me. I walked off to use the lavatory, for all of 1 minute, and I walk back in to make a sandwich. Upon entering I notice that the dishes are fucking gone. My first thought is I didn't actually do them, but the sink's empty. So, I checked the cabinets, and yup, all the dishes had been put away. This was actually a week after I'd had a nightmare where me and the spirit of the house had gotten into an argument, because I was constantly bitching about how crappy it was. I guess since I apologized in the dream, it was her way of making peace. But still, fucking startling.
Now this might not be a ghost dream, but when I was about 6-ish I had a dream about my great-grandmother telling me to tell my grandmother.
Don't crud is okay, I'm with the angels now.
She died the same night and I had no idea until my mom told me she died the night before.
Similar experience here. When I was young, about 5, and first introduced to the concept of death, though the death of my uncle, I couldn't sleep well for days, and had to stay in my parents' room. 3 days after my uncle died, I had just laid down to bed, when my uncle appeared floating above me. He told me that everything was okay, and that he was happy now. I immediately got up and told my mother, who just tried to calm me down and get me to go to sleep. Ever since then, though, I've had a weird ability to sense and predict deaths. My current count is 4, which is 4 more than I'd like it to be, and I fear that count will rise to 5 within a month or 2.
B17. Just moved into new house. Grandmother is staying with us for a few days. She refuses to sleep in the guest room because she swears someone is staring through her window at night. Mom makes little brother and me sleep in there. 2 a.m. lying in bed on laptop finishing homework. Little brother asleep. Hear him start to giggle. Use laptop as flashlight and point it towards his face. He's dead asleep, not even smile on face. WTF. Creeped out but not enough to worry about it. Hear him giggle again but a little louder and a little deeper. Swing laptop around fast and shine it on his face. Dead asleep, no smile. Well, this is fucked up. Do what I always do when I'm freaked out and Google about it. Searching through web pages about sleep laughing. Hear him laugh again but sounds like it's coming from right behind laptop monitor. Slowly turn laptop around again. Little brother is asleep. Stare at him in total confusion. Move laptop closer to see if he's actually asleep and not fucking with me. Little kids think shit like this is funny. Slowly get closer and start get sweaty palms. Thinking he's going to jump up and scare the fuck out of me. As I get closer, my attention goes from his face to this very hard to see figure in the corner of our room right next to his headboard. Not sure what the fuck is going on. Start to feel really confused like when you abuse over-the-counter drugs. The figure starts to giggle, and it starts out quietly but slowly gets louder. Loud as fuck. Trying to walk to brother's bed to get him out of it and out of the room. Legs are heavy as fuck. Giggling louder. Manage to eventually work my way to his bed and wake him up and grab, can't let me sibling die. Carry him out of the room with his head right above my shoulder next to my ear. Slowly start hearing him giggle. Run the fuck into the living room and put him on the couch. Not sure if I should wake my folks up. Ask him WTF he was giggling at when I was carrying him. Oh, Michael was making faces at you and laughing at you. Michael is his imaginary, blonder hair, blue eyes. It's been his imaginary friend since he could talk. Noped all the way to Africa. Not sure WTF happened that night, but I'm 22 now and he's 13 now and a really strange kid. Very into religion, though we weren't a very religious family. He talks to himself a shit ton. Doesn't play video games or do normal kid shit. For the longest time I thought possible demon, angel shit, but as an atheist I find that hard to even believe. I don't know if it was paranormal, a dream that I acted out, or maybe just a moment of psychosis on my part. But I will say this, I've never been that scared in my life. Maybe you can appreciate that, X.
I have a story. It isn't scary, but here it is. I was in the 2nd grade and my best friend since kindergarten had been battling brain cancer. I went away for Christmas break to visit family outside the city. I was up late watching TV, around 2:30 to 3 o'clock in the morning. I get up to take a piss, and as I place my hat on an end table turning the corner, boom, everything goes white and I see my friend dressed in all white with his favorite Mighty Ducks hat on. And he had hair. He was bald from the cancer treatments. He smiled and waved to me and seemed genuinely happy. I was kind of confused but thought nothing of it. Return home watching Prince of Bel-Air. Mom plays message on the answering machine. My friend had passed away while we were gone. I cried like a little girl.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.